The lights dimmed inside the grand stage of America's Got Talent as a small boy from the Philippines stepped forward. Dressed in a simple shirt and worn-out shoes, he looked far different from the glamorous contestants who had performed before him. But when the microphone touched his hand, the world seemed to pause. His eyes reflected both struggle and hope, as though he carried not just his dream but the weight of his family's sacrifices on his shoulders. The music began, soft at first, and the boy closed his eyes. The moment his voice filled the theater, silence spread across the audience. His tone was raw yet powerful, filled with emotions that told stories of hardship, poverty, and unshaken faith. Every lyric seemed to flow straight from his heart, pulling tears from the eyes of strangers who had never known his struggles. The judges sat frozen. Simon Cowell leaned forward, visibly shaken, while Heidi Klum and Sofia Vergara clutched their hearts. By the time he reached the chorus, the boy's voice soared so high and so pure that the entire hall erupted in gasps. Audience members wiped their tears while others held up their phones to capture what they knew was history in the making. As he finished, the theater exploded into a standing ovation that lasted several minutes. The boy stood trembling, overwhelmed by the cheers. Suddenly, one of the judges reached for the golden buzzer. With a single push, golden confetti rained down, covering the boy as his eyes filled with tears. He dropped to his knees, overwhelmed, while the crowd roared louder than ever. This was more than just a performance. It was a story of resilience, a reminder that even the poorest child can rise to greatness when given a chance. That night, a poor Filipino boy not only won a golden buzzer but also won the hearts of millions around the world. His journey from hardship to the world's biggest stage proved that dreams, no matter how distant, are always worth chasing. The America's Got Talent stage has seen countless dreamers, but on this night, the world witnessed a story that would be remembered for years. A young Filipino boy, coming from a life of struggle and poverty, stood nervously in front of the judges. His small frame, shy smile, and humble background told nothing of the incredible power hidden within his voice. The moment the music began, his nerves seemed to melt away. With his very first note, the theater fell silent. His voice was unlike anything the audience expected, rich, soulful, and filled with a depth of emotion that could only come from someone who had truly lived through hardship. Each word carried pain, resilience, and a glimmer of hope. Simon Cowell, often known for his tough critiques, leaned forward, his eyes softening. As the boy sang about dreams, love, and struggle, Simon's expression changed. He was visibly moved. By the second verse, Amanda Holden wiped away tears, and members of the audience sobbed openly. It was no longer just a song, it was a story of survival and faith, told through the voice of a child who had seen life's toughest battles. When the boy hit his final note, the theater erupted in thunderous applause. The crowd rose to its feet, clapping and cheering in unison, creating an unforgettable standing ovation. Simon Cowell, overwhelmed by the purity of the performance, admitted that it was one of the most emotional moments he had ever witnessed on the AGT stage. For a man rarely brought to tears, this was history. Then came the life-changing moment, the golden buzzer. With a powerful slam on the button, golden confetti filled the air. The boy stood frozen in disbelief before falling to his knees as the confetti rained over him. His tears mingled with joy, his dream suddenly becoming a reality before millions of viewers worldwide. This was more than just a talent show audition. It was the story of a poor Filipino boy who carried his family's hopes, his country's pride, and his own determination onto one of the world's biggest stages. That night, his voice didn't just bring Simon Cowell to tears, it inspired the world to believe in the power of dreams. The anticipation inside the America's Got Talent theater was electric. Contestants had come and gone, but then, a young Filipino boy walked onto the stage. His clothes were simple, his shoes slightly worn, and his hands trembled as he held the microphone. The judges smiled warmly, but the boy's eyes revealed a story far deeper: years of poverty, sleepless nights, and a dream burning brighter than anything life had thrown his way. The music started, soft and steady. At first, the audience leaned in, curious. But as the boy sang his first line, the theater instantly fell silent. His voice was pure, soulful, and carried a weight that no one expected from such a young contestant. Each note pierced through the air, layered with raw emotions of pain, hope, and determination. It wasn't just a performance, it was a cry from the heart, a plea for his dream to be heard. As the song continued, people in the crowd were visibly moved. Some reached for tissues, others held their chests as if trying to contain the emotions his voice stirred within them. Judges exchanged glances, their faces filled with awe. By the chorus, the boy's voice had soared so high, so beautifully, that the entire hall erupted with gasps and tears. Simon Cowell leaned back, clearly shaken, while Sofia Vergara covered her mouth in disbelief. Heidi Klum's eyes filled with tears, and Howie Mandel could only shake his head in amazement. The moment he hit his final note, the audience jumped to their feet, clapping and cheering louder than ever before. It was a standing ovation that lasted several long minutes, echoing the magnitude of what they had just experienced. And then, the life-changing moment came. One of the judges reached forward and slammed the golden buzzer. Instantly, golden confetti rained down from above, showering the boy in shimmering light. He froze, his face stunned with disbelief, before breaking into tears of joy. Kneeling on the stage, he looked up at the confetti as though the heavens themselves had answered his prayers. That night, the young Filipino boy didn't just earn a golden buzzer, he won the hearts of millions. His voice proved that no matter how humble your beginnings, talent, passion, and courage can turn dreams into destiny. The America's Got Talent stage glowed brightly as a young Filipino boy stepped into the spotlight. His small figure looked almost lost on the grand stage, but his eyes held determination. He wasn't just singing for himself, he was singing for his family, for every child who had ever been told that dreams were impossible. The judges gave him an encouraging nod, and as the music began, the theater fell into silence. The boy took a deep breath and released the first note. It was soft, gentle, and filled with sincerity. As he continued, his voice grew stronger, carrying a soulful richness that seemed far beyond his years. Every lyric was wrapped in emotion, pain from his struggles, joy from his courage, and hope for a brighter future. The sound was so powerful, it seemed to touch every heart in the room. One by one, audience members rose to their feet, unable to stay seated as the boy poured his soul into the performance. Tears streamed down the faces of strangers who had never met him but suddenly felt as though they knew his story. The song wasn't just being sung, it was being lived in real time. The judges were equally stunned. Heidi Klum leaned forward, clutching her chest as if to steady her emotions. Sofia Vergara wiped her eyes, overwhelmed by the purity of his voice. Howie Mandel whispered to Simon Cowell, who for once was completely speechless. Simon's eyes glistened as he watched, knowing he was witnessing something truly rare. When the boy reached the climax of the song, his voice soared so high, so beautifully, that the theater shook with applause. The audience, already standing, clapped and cheered, their voices echoing louder than the music itself. By the time the final note faded, the entire hall was on its feet, giving him one of the most emotional standing ovations in AGT history. The boy stood frozen, tears filling his eyes as he looked out at the sea of cheering faces. For a moment, time seemed to stop. A poor child from the Philippines had crossed oceans, carried his dream to America, and proven that talent knows no boundaries. That night, his soulful song didn't just bring an audience to their feet, it lifted the spirit of millions watching around the world. The America's Got Talent stage is a place where dreams either break or take flight. On this unforgettable night, a poor Filipino boy stepped onto the stage, his hands trembling but his heart filled with determination. His journey had been difficult, days of hunger, nights filled with uncertainty, and countless moments when hope seemed out of reach. Yet here he was, standing in front of millions, ready to share his gift. The judges asked him about his dream, and with a shy smile, he replied, "I just want to sing and make my family proud." His words were simple, but they carried the weight of sacrifice and resilience. As the music began, he closed his eyes and sang with all his heart. The first note struck like lightning, pure, emotional, and filled with soul. His voice trembled with passion, carrying a power that silenced the entire room. Each lyric was painted with the story of his struggles and the strength he found in them. Audience members leaned in, their eyes brimming with tears as they listened to the boy's heart pour out in song. The judges were visibly moved. Heidi Klum and Sofia Vergara exchanged emotional glances, while Howie Mandel shook his head in disbelief at the incredible talent before him. Simon Cowell, rarely overcome with emotion, blinked back tears as he watched the boy sing as though his very life depended on it. When the song reached its highest note, the boy's voice soared with unmatched power, leaving the audience gasping. And then, silence. For a moment, it felt as though the entire world held its breath. As the final note echoed across the theater, the room erupted in thunderous applause and cheers. Before the boy could even process the standing ovation, one of the judges slammed the golden buzzer. Golden confetti rained down from the ceiling, sparkling under the stage lights. The boy dropped to his knees, his tears falling as he realized his dream had just come true. That moment was bigger than music, it was a victory for every child who dared to dream, no matter their circumstances. The poor Filipino boy had turned his struggles into strength, and his voice into a bridge between pain and triumph. His golden buzzer wasn't just an award, it was the beginning of a journey that would inspire the world.